Hey everybody, it's Eddie here, and in today's video, we're going to be going over what is going on with Bitcoin. We're going to be going over 10 different indicators, 10 different things to help you give some perspective and some sense into what is going on with the markets. Hopefully, it helps with your investing decision and moving forward. So if that's interesting, definitely stick around. The first thing that we're going to look at is the RSI on the daily and the weekly. So the basic idea of the RSI, or also known as the Relative Strength Index, is that anytime it's below 30, it indicates that it's oversold, and anytime it's above 70 indicates that it's overbought. During this entire dip, the daily RSI has reached as low as 19, and you can see that anytime we were in these oversold territories, we saw some sort of release bounce or relief rally. It was also a sign of a potential bottom and a great time to accumulate and buy. If you take a look at the weekly RSI, Bitcoin is currently at 37. Now, Bitcoin historically really hasn't spent a lot of time in these ranges, and if we ever did, it also indicated bottoms as well. Remember, keep in mind that when you accumulate, you can't really time the bottoms, but you want to buy in ranges, and right now I would say it's a pretty good time to buy. Not financial advice, but that is what I'm currently doing. Next, I want to take a look at the MACD on the weekly and the monthly. Now, the MACD is a lagging indicator, and it's also a momentum indicator, just like the RSI. But you can see back in April, we got a bearish cross, which led to a correction. We got a bullish cross, which led to a relief rally, got a bearish cross, correction. And if we slowly, flatten out, then eventually we're going to see this turn into a bullish cross, leading the Bitcoin price higher, but that is probably one of the better case scenarios. So although we are in a downtrend and things do look a little bit bearish on the weekly, eventually when things turn red, things must turn green. But I want to go ahead and switch over to the monthly and look at the monthly MACD. Now, on the monthly MACD, things actually do not look good, right? We had a giant moment of green, which is this entire uptrend over here, and it looks like we're about to get a bearish cross on the MACD, right? What could this result to? Could this result to a multi-year bear market? Back in 2014, when we got a bearish cross on the MACD on the monthly, we were down there for about 487 days. After the 2017 bull run in 2018, we were down in the red for about 304 days. From 2019 to 2020, we were sort of consolidating, and now we got our first red print on the MACD. And so let's say we stay down here for another 330 days. That means the entire 2022, are we in a potential bear market? Now, it's very possible that the entire 2022 can be a bear market. Anything is a possibility, right? But I'm going to be sharing my reason why I feel like we're not going to experience a multi-year bear market, or why I'm not too concerned about this entire bearish cross. So right now, a lot of people are comparing the current Bitcoin chart with what happened with the S&P 500 back from 2000 to 2008. Now, there's a saying that 10 years in the stock market is like 1 year with Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency space, and I pretty much agree with that statement. This chart is 10 years worth of information, and this over here is about 1 year worth of information. You can see that the S&P 500 made a new all-time high, same with Bitcoin, and then had a correction following afterwards. The S&P 500 barely made a new all-time high, and the exact same thing happened with Bitcoin as well, followed by a correction that broke above or below the previous low. Right now, Bitcoin's hovering around 36.8K, so if we were to have a correction below this previous low, then yeah, we could revisit 25, 26, 27K, and then the S&P 500 bounced up. And could the same thing happen with Bitcoin? Now, before I show you the MACD, I just want to show you the correction that the S&P 500 experienced, about 50% correction. The second one, we experienced about a 57% correction. Similar thing with Bitcoin as well. We experienced a 55% correction. And the second one, so far, we've experienced about a 51% correction. So let's say we dip a little bit below, let's just say like 58% correction. That puts Bitcoin around 28K. But there is no guarantee that Bitcoin will break below this previous low and bounce back up, right? It could bounce tomorrow or next week. But next, I want to take a look at the MACD on the S&P 500 on the yearly time frame. Each candlestick represents 12 months. And pretty much for the past 10 years, the S&P 500 just traded sideways, just like Bitcoin did for the past year. Now, can you imagine what investors and traders and everybody was thinking when the yearly MACD got a bearish cross? I mean, look at this entire run up, right? The S&P 500, the stock market can't go up forever, right? No, there's got to be at least a crazy correction before we continue higher. But nope, on the MACD, on the yearly, we got a bullish cross and the stock market continued higher. So just like how the stock market kind of had a double top, same with Bitcoin had a double top, followed by a bearish cross right over here. Is it possible that in a few months Bitcoin will actually get a bullish cross just like the S&P 500 did around 10 years ago? And after we get a bullish cross, is it possible that we can get a giant rally up for Bitcoin to 100K? Well, nobody truly knows exactly what's going to be happening, right? All I'm doing is presenting the data with you all, and it is up to you how you want to strategize your entire portfolio moving forward. The third thing you should know is that Bitcoin should eventually get a bounce to the 50K range, right? Whether that happens this year or next year, it sucks being in a loss, but if you ever wanted to sell out, you don't really want to sell when things are oversold, right? You want to sell things at least at a bounce or when things are slightly overbought. If you grab the Fibonacci retracement tool, go from the high to the low, which is right over here and right over here. We're measuring these two levels over here. We should get a bounce at least back up to the 0.5 or the 0.618, which is anywhere between 51 to 55K. If Bitcoin were to drop all the way down to like 25K, well, Bitcoin should still rebound anywhere between 47 to 52K, which is higher than the current Bitcoin price today. For example, let's measure this entire move over here. Bitcoin made a new all-time high of 65K. Then it had a massive correction all the way down to 28K. I hope none of you sold there, right? Because you don't want to be selling at these oversold ranges. Instead, you want to wait for a bounce up to here. Now, where is here? Well, you grab the Fibonacci retracement tool, go measure from this top over here to the bottom of the correction. And you can see there was a lot of selling pressure at the 0.618, which is around 51K. If we measure from June of 2019, when Bitcoin hit around 13.7K, all the way as low as the March crash over here, well, if we expand that out, if you bought here in dollar cost average and you experience this loss, you don't want to be selling at the oversold territory, right? Instead, you want to be selling at the bounce. And we got a lot of selling pressure right over here, which is where? At the 0.618 at 10K. And the last example I want to share is, say you bought at the 20K top, right? And you're experiencing this entire correction, but you're not panic selling. Instead, what you're doing is you're dollar cost averaging, you're buying, and so that you can lower your average cost down. You experience this giant sell off and you're like, man, what have I done? I should have just sold earlier. But no, you don't want to be selling when things are oversold. Instead, you want to sell things at a bounce. Well, where was this selling point? If we grab the Fibonacci retracement tool once again, go from the 20K top, measured all the way as low as 3K and stretch that out. Well, you can see there was a lot of selling pressure right over here at 13K. If you dollar cost averaged in and lowered your entry price, maybe possibly you could have broken at a break even. So during this entire downtrend, I personally would not even consider selling at a loss when things are oversold at levels where institutions and whales are accumulating. Instead, what I would do, what my strategy would be, if I wanted to sell at a break even or minimize my losses, I would dollar cost average in. I would buy these dips and be patient and wait for that bounce so that I can sell at a break even again minimize my losses. That is something to consider. Keep in mind, things don't go down forever. Things don't go up forever. Things do eventually rebound. But the earliest I could see that happening is if we grab the average of this entire top to the bottom, that took about 119 days. And from this bottom to a new all-time high, it took about 112 days. So if we say, let's just say it takes around 112 days as well, then I could imagine that we would get a bounce sometime in March. And we can revisit the previous all-time high around June of 2022 or summer of 2022. That's probably the best case scenario, or it could take up to a year. Next, I want to take a look at the Bitcoin hash ribbon indicator. Now, in Bitcoin's history, we only got 12 buy signals. Now, every time we got those buy signals, Bitcoin's price always ranged in those areas or acted as support, or never really tended to break down those levels. For example, we got a buy signal over here and we never revisit $3 ever again. We got a buy signal over here at $5.60, never revisit those levels again. And once again, we got it again around $21, never revisit those levels again. We got 3 buy signals over here where the Bitcoin price traded sideways. The only time we dipped below the previous buy signal price was the March capitulation in 2020 right over here, which was technically a black swan event because we got a buy signal at $7,000 and it dipped below $7,000. But previously over here we got one at $3,000, and after the March crash, the next one we got was around $8,000, $9,000. Over here was around $15,000 to $20,000, and we got one right here around $42,000 to $43,000. Now, right now we have dipped below the previous buy level just like we did in March of 2020. Now, is it possible that this entire correction is a much more controlled correction than the one we experienced in March of 2020? Is it possible that we can get a bounce, get another buy signal like we did over here and continue higher. So in the past 12 years, yes, we dipped below twice, but typically, when you look at the macro market structure, these buy signals have been pretty powerful. The fifth thing I want to talk about is the golden cross and death cross within Bitcoin. Now, the green line signals the 50-day moving average and the red line signals the 200-day moving average. Anytime they cross over, that is called a death cross. Anytime they cross where the green is on top or the 50-day moving average is on top, that is considered a golden cross, which is generally bullish. Now, we did get a death cross back in, this month in January 2022 that led to a price dip. Is it possible that when we get a rebound, this will converge and get a golden cross? If that were to happen, that would be probably sometime in Q2 of 2022. And could the Bitcoin price continue higher like we did back in September of 2021? That is something to keep an eye out on, right? Anytime there is a death cross, what follows after is a golden cross. Anytime there's a golden cross, what follows after is a death cross. So yes, things are, slightly bearish, but on the other side, things can look better. The sixth thing that I want to talk about is the buy signal that we got on the weekly on the Lux Algo. If you're interested in signing up for Lux Algo, I do have a referral link down below. You do get a discount if you do use my code, but it's an amazing tool to have, right? Recently, we got a buy signal over here. Previously, it indicated pretty much the bottom in 2018 and in 2020. We got two signals over here in 2014. Is it possible that Bitcoin can go a little bit lower and get a second buy signal just like we did over here? Very possible, but just know that historically, if you bought at any of these times, you would have performed extremely well. And on the daily, we got 3 buy signals in a row, just like we did back in the summer. And we are also in this green cloud range, which could also indicate a potential bounce. The seventh thing that I want to look at is the volume profile within the Lux Algo. Now, anytime you see these spikes over here, these indicate all the volume that was traded in this range, which also signifies a lot of support. Currently, we can see a lot of support between 37, 36K and as low as 30K. So what this volume profile pretty much indicates is that, hey, there's been a lot of trading activity in this range. There's a lot of buying, a lot of selling, and there's a lot of support. And if we get rid of everything, you can see that there's been a lot of trading activity over here, a lot of trading activity over here, and currently we're back in those same ranges. The next level of volume will be around this range over here, which is anywhere between 45 to 50K, which is also in line with the potential bounce region as well. So if you wanted to break even or sell and exit, this is the bounce or the area that you would do it. But what can also happen is that we can enter into this range, we can consolidate, and then we can continue higher. So strategize accordingly. The eighth thing that I want to talk about is the 200-week moving average. Now, the green line represents the 50-week moving average, and the red represents the 200-week moving average. This is more of a bearish case, but anytime Bitcoin has broken below this green line over here, we revisit the red line. Same over here, we broke below it, revisit the red, broke below it over here, revisit the red. So if we look at today, Bitcoin has broken below the green line. Is it possible that we can revisit the red line today? It is sitting around 20K. There's no way Bitcoin will drop 20K in about a week, but is it possible that this red line trends higher over time, Bitcoin consolidates sideways like this, and then revisits the red line? Absolutely, right? That would pretty much mean that the entire 2022 would range anywhere between 25 to 40K. And towards the end of the year, this red line should be sitting anywhere around 30K. But do keep in mind that a lot of people are grabbing data from this bull run and this bull run and expected a very similar thing to happen this bull run. But this entire run is completely different than the past two, so it doesn't have to play out the way that it did the past 2 times. It's very possible that this time could be a little bit different just because during the past 2 runs, institutions were not involved. This time, it is front run by institutions. So keep an eye out on the 20-week moving average. I'm not selling any of my positions. If we do visit those levels, then all I'm going to be doing is buying the dip, and then I'll write everything back up. The 9th thing that I want to take a look at is the Bitcoin logarithmic growth curve. Now, just because it's holding structure now doesn't mean it will hold structure later on, but it held up pretty nicely so far. You can see that at any time that we are in these bottom ranges, it was a great time to accumulate and buy. If we zoom in and see where Bitcoin is at today, today, you can see that Bitcoin has pretty much almost touched the bottom of this line over here. And do keep in mind that the price increases over time as well. So the bottom in March of 2022 would technically be around 31K. If Bitcoin were to drop to the bottom of the line, then it would be about a 20% correction, which is actually not that bad considering the entire crypto space. So my argument is that Bitcoin is very close to bottoming out, and right now is not a horrible time to be accumulating. Just know that in summer of 2022, right over here, the bottom of the band is the current price of Bitcoin. So even if you bought today and the price dipped 20%, just know that in about 6 months, you might either be at a break even or Bitcoin might be higher. So not a bad time to be accumulating, in my opinion. If we move this all the way to the end of the year of 2022, we're talking about December of 2022, well, the bottom of this band is sitting at 51K, which is approximately about 42% higher than the current Bitcoin price. So if you're patient for about 1 year, well, you're gonna still come out on top if this structure holds. And the last thing that I want to talk about is the Pi Cycle Top indicator. Now, this indicator has done a pretty good job of indicating tops, right? In 2013 run, we got 2 of them. In 2017, we got 1 at the 20K top, and we did get a 4th one at the 65K top. I remember this got printed and I was like, I feel like I should sell, but I feel like, no, I'm not gonna sell. I should have sold, but it's all good, right? But what Bitcoin managed to do after the correction is put a new all-time high, but a Pi Cycle Top indicator has not appeared. So the question is, was this wrong, or is it possible that we can continue higher, get a new all-time high and a new print just like we did back in 2013 over here? But again, just because it worked in the past does not mean that it will continue to work in the future, but it's something to keep in mind, right? For me, it was kind of like, oh, if this was truly the top, then we should have gotten a longer correction, but we actually managed to put a new all-time high, but we did not get a 5th Pi Cycle Top, printed. Is it possible that we'll get one later on? So now that I've shared this, how am I preparing? I'm going to share what I'm doing because I can't really tell you what to do. What I'm doing is I'm continuously dollar cost averaging into the market every single day, but specifically Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is the only asset that I'm very comfortable investing in or dollar cost averaging on a regular basis versus altcoins, because I don't know if they will continue to survive. Now, I'm going to be monitoring the markets really closely, and once we get a rebound, if the rebound is based off of good news or bullish news, then I'm going to continue to hold it out until Bitcoin makes a new all-time high. But if the rebound happens without any bullish news and it's just happening just because the market is moving, then I'm going to potentially take some profits off the table at a rebound around 50K and hold it, wait on the sidelines, and if things continue higher, then I'll enter back in. If not, then I'm going to take profits and buy back at the dip. And third of all, I'm going to be buying much more aggressively at these levels. When the market was going up, I was dollar cost averaging on a daily basis, small amounts here, small amounts there. But every time we go lower and lower and lower, I dollar cost average much more aggressively, which is also known as dynamic dollar cost averaging. If you dollar cost average like $10 a day up here, well, as the price goes lower, you should do a 2x. So now you should do $20 a day. And if we go lower, you should try to do $40, $50 a day. The number is really up to you how you want to set it. It can be daily, weekly, or monthly. But for me, as the price goes lower, I'm dollar cost averaging much more aggressively, because buying Bitcoin at a 50% discount is much better than buying at a 10% discount. When Bitcoin was making a new all-time high in the 60K range, everyone was like, I wish we bought more at the 30, 20K range. Now that it's here, nobody wants to buy because they're afraid of a multi-bear market. But just know that when you're holding onto a quality asset that will trend higher over time, it is worth buying and holding, and you just gotta wait. I know there's a ton of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market, but being in the space and the amount of interest there is around the entire cryptocurrency space, I can't help but to be excited what it's gonna look like in the next 3, 4, or 5 years. And at the same time, as long as I'm earning interest on my crypto, and accumulating more crypto as time goes by, then when the prices go back up, well, that plays in my favor. Make sure you have a long-term outlook on the market. Don't expect to get rich quick overnight. And remember to only invest what you're willing to lose and only invest into things that you understand. Please do not invest into things you do not understand. Well, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave it down below. If you liked these types of videos, consider checking out the Patreon group. I create these types of content and post things on there when I don't on my public channel. So definitely consider checking that out. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Over. Good night, good morning. Adios.